Grandpa first met?
Oh, well, just because I'm old, it doesn't mean that I can tell stories, Sonny.
Oh, please tell me the story.
It was nigh until 1847, and this land was all orchards as far as the eye could see.
But it's still orchards.
Shut your little hole! This was a time when dinosaurs still roamed the earth. Yes, everywhere you turned, you were bumping into a T-Rex or a raptor. Couldn't go down Little Piggly Wiggly without being chased by a pterodactyl.
There were no dinosaurs when...
This was a time when there was no such thing as the sun. The earth revolved around a large quill pen that hovered among the stars. And in order to produce light, you had to write a notarized letter to President Taft. And if you drew your name, he would come to your house personally, riding on a mountain lion, and fill your crude oil lamp. The sun came out 2 weeks later, along with those moving picture shows I've heard so much about.
I don't think that's how it really was.
Now, the Indians, they struck back at the white man hard, killing off most of your Europeans and Anglo-Saxons. We had to slowly refertilize the population with something we used to call Coca-Cola. Oh, it had magical properties. 1 sip could make animals fly. 2 sips and you die. 3 sips and you could read the thoughts of those around you. Wonderful stuff. Of course, later it was outlawed by President Poopyhead. Van Buren, along with larceny, jig dancing, and certain cheeses. A robber would be forced to eat really, really cold oatmeal. Oatmeal! And murderers were let loose to run the state of Michigan, which back then wasn't a state at all, but a magical fairyland filled with waffles and elves, where birds wore cardigans and the hills were made of gravy.
I'm scared, Grandma.
Now, your grandfather worked for Thomas Alva Edison way back in 18... Benny! He hired him to invent electric power, so light bulbs would have some kind of power source. Isn't that lovely?
Uh-huh.
And when he fucked that up royally, he invented other things. Things like the printing press and the steam engine and oxygen and flan. Until eventually he wound up in Shangri-La, where for a nickel he told sea tales to lonely sailors and to a young drifter who later went on to rule Germany and start the war to end all wars. The Big Friggin' War, they called it. And do you know what that man's name was?
Adolf Hitler?
Earl Holliman. He was on Policewoman. Ah, Venezuela. That's a magical land. That's a place where ducks can talk, and the fruit is so ripe you can only eat it head to toe in polyurethane. And every morning at 4 o'clock they sing their national anthem, which goes something like, Venezuela, Venezuela, land of milk and nipples. Nipsey Russell's never been there. I want ass. A second verse, sort of like the first. Venezuela, Venezuela, land of milk and nipples. Cheryl Ladd has also been there. I found ass. Well, that's how I remember it anyway. You know, it helps the days pass by a little less painfully.
I understand, Grandma. I love you, Grandma.
Oh, and I love you. And you are? I don't know him. Venezuela, land of milk and nipples. Nipsey Russell's never been there. I want us. It's a good song. Cheryl Ladd has also been there. I found ass.